darkness. It was all around her, and she felt nothing but the confusion brought on by the endless void. It took her a few moments to compose her mind, to analyze the situation. She slowly recalled what she had been doing just moments earlier, before the void had claimed her. She'd been laid down on the sofa, weak and thirsty. Some animated show about the Justice League was on the cheap little television in the family living room. How she had wished she lived in a world of superpowered beings ripe with adventure and even magic if you happen to be Shazam. How she fantasized about it. Anything was better than the reality she faced after all. And there she had laid, head burning and vision blurring. Her mother had been in the room, and the girl had asked for some water. Her mother had told her to be quiet and watch the television, not wanting to have her phone call interrupted. She had told her mother that she was feeling worse than ever, and she told her it was nothing, and she would be better soon, that it wasn't worth the medical expenses. She wanted to believe her mother, she really did, but there was that look in her eye, that uncaring and even bored expression that glanced the girl's way. Her father wasn't much help either. He was at work. But sometimes, or a lot of the time, he would come home wobbly and with a foul stench on his breath. Her mother and father would then shout and scream while the girl could only watch. And this was how it had been for all 13 years of her life. 13 years in that small, little house, barely leaving it, not even for things like school. So it had always been. And now she was sick, and nobody even seemed to care. She had turned back to watch the cartoon, seeing Superman pummel the bad guy into some building or other. And then she was in the void. It had been so sudden, so confusing. And there she was, without knowing how she got there or why. She tried to move her arms and legs, finding nothing. No hands, no feet, or a body of any kind. It was surreal, like having an almost lucid dream but without the fine control over it. She wanted to think she had in fact fallen asleep, but something within her told the girl otherwise. The void stretched onward still, dark and confusing, endless, overwhelming in scope and density. And then it stopped. The void gave way, and a vast plain of twinkling stars amidst a bright blue-colored expanse. She also had a body again, and she sat on an invisible floor, breathing softly as her mind compensated for the sudden change of scenery. She brought her hands up to her face, wiggling her fingers to ensure they were real. She couldn't help but notice an almost transparent effect to her body, and if she peered enough, she could just see through her hand and into the expanse beyond. Slowly, she got to her feet and looked around, trying to keep her trembling under control. "Hello?" she called out, receiving no response. After a few more moments of waiting, the girl began to walk on forwards. For minutes she walked, not knowing where she was going or if there was any destination at all. She just walked and walked, until she was stopped by the sudden materialization of a giant flat square of bright white light. She had to shield her eyes against the sudden onslaught of light, until it faded away to show a scene in a very familiar living room. As she lowered her protective hand and examined the scene, she realized she could still see her mother talking on the phone in what appeared to be an intense debate. The cartoon was still playing on the TV, though now seemed to be reaching its conclusion. And there, on the sofa, the girl herself was laying quietly, and she didn't appear to be breathing. "What?" the girl muttered out, taking a step back as she seemed to be looking at her own lifeless corpse, laying on the sofa yet unnoticed. "Such a horrible sight, and yet the parent notices not," a new voice stated from behind the girl. "I pity you, little girl. The girl spun around and suppressed a squeak of terror at what awaited her. A large black-colored horse, or perhaps a pony, stood there. Her mane was a transparent black and silver, flowing gently in a non-existent breeze. Her eyes were an almost lifeless gray, and a vicious black horn sat just above them with equally black feathered wings resting on the side of the pony's torso. Her tail was equally as ethereal as her mane, and on her flank sat a mark depicting two crossed scythes in the foreground, with two silvery wings in the background. The girl shook in terror. "Please don't eat me!" The pony blinked. "Eat you? Little girl, the first thing you should know about ponies is that we are herbivores. Mostly. We don't tend to eat meat. So, you're not going to eat me?" The pony shook her head. "No. There isn't much to eat anyway. You're just a spirit from a deceased vessel." "You mean I'm dead?" "Yes. My condolences." "But does that mean you're the Grim Reaper?" "Ah, I can see why you might think that, but alas, unlike you at this moment, I am very much a living thing. And I am the only reason you have not moved on, as they might say." "Moved on? Moved on to what?" "I don't know," the pony answered honestly. "I cannot go that far. But I can grab departing souls such as yours before they get there. Though taking you from another universe was a challenge." Now the girl was even more confused, her mind swimming in circles. "What are you?" "Little girl, I am what is known as an alicorn. You may call me Penumbra." "Penumbra?" "Yes, that is my name. I have been watching you from afar, and I stumbled upon you quite by chance. I have seen many things, but I must admit, your plight may have touched me. Such uncaring parents, such an unfulfilling life without learning and knowledge." "You have?" the girl inquired. "Are there others too?" "I was the only one watching you, as far as I know. And there are very few alicorns in my world. But even if the likes of Celestia and Luna are unaware of it, there are other far older alicorns such as myself still scattered around our little planet." "Celestia and Luna?" Penumbra sighed. "I believe I am getting ahead of myself. My apologies. My point is, I have decided to allow you a second chance at life." "A second chance? I don't understand." "You get to live anew. I cannot say how it will turn out, but you will at least have a chance to be happy." "I can be happy? What are you going to do to me?" "You shall see. But worry not. I shall allow your memories of your past to remain, and it is up to you what you will do with that knowledge. Tell others, or don't. It is your life to live." Penumbra said, but then leaned down towards the girl with an air of warning about her. "But be warned, this is the one time I act without a penance upon yourself. Should we meet again, it won't be without cost." I still don't understand. I'm scared." "That is understandable, child. But you will understand one day. But for now, I cannot expect anything more from a newborn filly." Penumbra's horn flashed, and everything went dark again. The girl yawned. She still felt quite drowsy as she awoke from what felt like a nice little nap, the world slowly blurring into view. The girl lay quietly as she took in the bright blue day sky above her, taking in slow, calm breaths. She must have been dreaming after all, but she couldn't remember for the life of her how she had gotten outside. Glancing to her sides revealed what appeared to be walls made of cardboard. With returning confusion, she realized she was in what appeared to be a gigantic cardboard box tucked in a blue blanket. Or perhaps she was simply smaller than she had been. She began to feel panic, her young mind being overwhelmed as new sensations began to make themselves known. 2 new little limbs fluttered nervously on her back, and the child realized she could not wiggle her fingers or her toes. She brought up what should have been an arm, but what in fact seemed to be a foreleg. She saw a little hoof covered in blue fur staring back at her, a strand of light brown hair falling in front of her eyes. Panic overtook her completely, and she realized the new limbs on her back were tiny wings, and that she was definitely no longer human. One of her ears twitched as she breathed in heavily, making baby-like squeaks as tears began to breach her eyes. And then she screamed.